And it starts with this lady. She's born in 1860s and she survives the frontier wars around southeast Queensland. Granny Graham, Jenny Drumley, she goes by various names, and she was an icon in our community back then. In the 1980s, her grandchildren got together and formed the organisation that I work for now, the Combermary Aboriginal Corporation for Culture. My mother, who's 88, actually she could be 89, she doesn't look like that, grew up in Granny's house. So my mother in the 1930s is hearing the stories from the 1860s from this lady, and to this day Mum pops out these stories of, oh, I remember Granny told me about that. And so what we're trying to do, our organisation's idea is to take the original culture of our space, re-educate and promote it, and create economic opportunities along the way as we do it. So I guess over the last 30 years since we started, that's been our aim, to work not in our language, only in our language, but we also assist about 8 other language groups all around the country who don't have a museum, don't have a functioning board, and we think, how can we help them? This is the opening of our museum in 1995. One of our elder statesmen was there to really boost us on our way. And that's my art and soul. That's in our Beenleigh museum. It's been there all that time. It's a little space, and our footprint for Yugambeh is basically southeast Queensland, Gold Coast, parts of Scenic Rim, parts of Logan. That's not to say Yugambeh is the only language spoken there, but that's the one we can assist with. And so when neighbouring groups come through and say, what about our language as well? We say, well, we've got language lists that we've acquired for those as well. You're welcome to use them. You can use them in classrooms. But we can lean on ours because we're confident in what we're doing in that space. Cameron mentioned a funny thing before. Well, not funny, but what he said was the native title process tears people apart. Then he said the festival is a way of bringing people back together. They wanted to start getting Aboriginal people to celebrate being Aboriginal people in our region for reasons other than it's a funeral or a sorry event. This is Australia's first memorial to Aboriginal men and women who defended their country, who fought in defence of their country. It's at a bora ground in Burleigh Heads, and in 1991 it was opened up, and it was a tremendous event for Aboriginal people around the country to have it for the first time. And this is when Bruce Ruxton and the RSL people were telling us that blackfellas were whatever they were. Here the community gathered and got together to celebrate this event. It's now an annual event. The gentleman in the front there, Gary Crosby, he teaches language at school actually. He's a member of the Military Brotherhood. He's a proud flag raiser for us, and every year we gather and remember those people. But that event has become a coming together place in a bora ground, which was a place of initiation, and it's a place where we gather to pass on our messages to our kids and impart to them the responsibility of what we're doing. Here's another, this is again, we're trying to bring the community together so that they understand who they are and what they should be proud of. And I guess, why are we doing this? Well, that was the first walk in 2005. This is the walk 2 to 3 years later. You've got the mayor of the Scenic Rim, a conservative mayor, starting off a peloton of 300 people, blocked the main street of the desert, and I could just feel this groundswell of people wanting to get access to Aboriginal stories. Now, we are not in the business of tourism necessarily as a museum, but we're in the business of building culture. And I'm in the Lakes District in England, and I'm working for Tourism Queensland. The year's 1998. And not being a student of 1700 poetry, I didn't know who William Wordsworth was. But that's okay, the people in my B&B did. In fact, they had a William Wordsworth room that I stayed in. And when I came out for breakfast, they had something from William Wordsworth on the menu. And then they said, today you must visit William Wordsworth House. And a penny dropped in my brain, and I learned all about this poet who had lived a couple hundred years ago. The entire community knew his name. The kids serving me had probably been in a play about William Wordsworth. And I thought, that's what the Gold Coast community doesn't have. We did a tourism action strategy for Southeast Queensland, not Southeast Queensland as in Brisbane Straddie mob, but just our mob. And that was in 2013, because I wanted to see where the opportunities were. And the first thing we discovered was no one knows about the blackfellas on the coast. If they don't know the stories, how can they tell visitors? If they can't tell the visitors, who the hell is going to spend money on product with us? So we had a lot of background work to do, and that's what a lot of these things were about doing, getting locals to know our stories. Out of the Drumley Walk, we had a night every night in the desert where I got anyone I could It was David's only time he ever performed in public, in front of his own audience, at a public stage, and it was just such a fantastic event to bring him, and it's a terribly emotional event for us because he was so beautiful. But it allowed us to introduce other people as well to the space, and suddenly the community was standing up and saying, we're blackfellas, we're from the desert, we're from the Gold Coast, and we're proud. Have you seen what we can do? We're real people. We hear the Commonwealth Games is coming in 2013. I gather together key people in the community and I say, guys, I lived through the Brisbane Commonwealth Games. What is going to be the legacy? What's going to be at the campfire the next morning? What are we going to leave for tomorrow's children? And that's where we came up with a few ideas. An app so that tourists and everyone could learn the language, and now that's the second app in Australia. It's free, and now it's a multilingual app. It has about 7 languages on it, plus how to say good day in 59 languages. We wanted to develop a festival, and what we found, as Cameron's found, is trying to get money for a festival year after year is a lot of work, and it's a lot of energy, and we just didn't have the financial backing as a little museum to drive it. But it brought out entertainment and cultural expression that we hadn't dreamt of, or hadn't thought of before. This is a contemporary dancer performing to a traditional story that's narrated, and we hadn't thought of doing this, but we needed to. We had a festival. So it inspired us to do new ways of entertainment. Yugamir Jala. Now this was a way, we had great stories. The blue chip, the big end of town knew nothing about us. How could we fix this? So a colleague of mine came up with an idea, and this was an event that actually this man over here was instrumental in. So this was an event where we were charging people $200 a ticket, but they didn't actually get 10 seats at a table, I got 9. And we put a real live Aboriginal person at the table as well. And I don't mean that cynically. A lot of these companies had never sat and spoken to an Aboriginal person from our space. And we realised that format really worked. Every year we've had it, we've sold out. The last one we had 28 tables, sold out, and we're looking to expand it. But that was just something we had to do because we wanted the universities and everyone to know our work. The outcomes from that, kids have got scholarships through schools, people have got they've been offered positions in universities that would not otherwise have been offered, and employment opportunities have come out of it, in small businesses to medium business who link up with the larger companies. And this is some of the imagery of it, and it's a fun night, it's crazy, but it's fun. The youth choir was another one. We wanted to get language and voice out to people. So they're all Aboriginal kids from our area, and they sing only in language. And this is them singing for 1.2 million people at the start of the All-Stars football match. The pride in these kids is enormous, and what I can see is when we're now looking to the future to build a community that can handle tourism, I've got young ambassadors who are proud of their culture, who might have come from a white urban background, but they're getting powered up. This man here has danced, for a very long time. He's very confident. How do I take a pill out of him and give it to my kids and make them that proud and they can stand up and do this stuff? And that's what we try and do. And this is Bula Bula Yaga. This is another thing we want to do for Commonwealth Games, and we wanted to find something that Comm Games could use that our community could interact with. So we went to the didgeridoo, which is not from our space. We're well aware of that, but we knew they'd want to use it. As a result, we've come up with a plan to create didgeridoo satellite orchestras all around the country, and then have some of those people perform at the Commonwealth Games. So that's another project. It's a project in its own right. But what I'd like to specifically do in the last few minutes is to talk to the Dream World process, which has been integral to all of this. And this is where I'm not technical, so just bear with me. There we go, fantastic. Okay, so this is our area, but I'll just cut through it. In a nutshell, the Dream World Board back in 2010, the Ardent Leisure Board, they're $1 billion company. They wanted to do something Indigenous in their theme park. What's Dream World? It's the largest single space theme park in Australia. 1.6 million visitors per year, turnover of $90 million per year. They're the biggest tourism player in our space. And when I used to look at the Gold Coast, what would upset me is there's a $4 billion tourism industry there. There's nothing going to the Aboriginal community at all. Jonathan Fisher and I discussed it, and he said, "Oh, we've got a little product here at Crumpet Sanctuary, but it's small." You know, and he said, "We really need to grow it." So Neil Balnage, the chairman of Ardent Leisure, came to a little museum back then, sat on plastic garden chairs in our main space, because that's what we had. And he said, "Rory, if we invest millions in creating an Aboriginal space within Dreamworld, will I be doing my shareholders money?" And I said, "Blackfellas don't trust a company. They might trust one person within your company." And so with that, he went away and appointed a guy called Al Mucci, who's an Italian-Australian, and he started working with communities. He then realised, he came to us and asked, how do I communicate with Aboriginal groups around the country? Do you want to be a consultant? And I said, no, you have to sit and have cups of tea with those people to get them on board. He has a huge passion for Aboriginal as for Indigenous animals. So he went to 23 communities around the country and told the stories of their animals through their totems, and then made that a theme park product. Because he needed something that the average person walking through with the stroller could engage with, and still get Aboriginal. Because Aboriginal was still, back then, I don't know if I want to hear about that just yet. And that's what their research was saying. You were there when they put their Chinese groups through as an experiment, and so the Ruska dancers were there for an experiment. They brought the Chinese market in to watch them, and they loved it, but it didn't make the visitor numbers grow up at the end. And nothing to do with them, it's just they weren't ready for that product. So a lot of research went on in the background of this, and it was all off them having a reconciliation action plan. So the years went by. We were working in a strategic tourism investment grant to do the tourism action strategy. So we had the federal minister, firstly, that's not his name, the Labor minister. He came to our museum, and we were able to convince him that if he could assist Dreamworld to get this product up, it could create jobs and outcomes for our youth. And in a nutshell, it did. So this is all their wrap business. When they launched this in 2010, Dreamworld had 3 identified staff. Once they launched it, about another 10 came forward, and now they've got something like more than 30 Indigenous staff in that space. And for young kids working there, it's inspirational, aspirational. They can get a job working as a real life Aboriginal guide in a space that pays them money. The theme parks do look after their staff as much as a theme park can. They don't pay great wages, but they do your uniforms, they give you training, and they give you introduction to other places to work. So we're happy our kids were getting training we couldn't give them as a museum. And plus we met all these other teams of people who were very, very highly qualified, who we could then use to do things like our dinner. We could then use to do things like our didgeridoo project with the Commonwealth Games, because they're used to operate at that level. As a museum, we didn't know where to meet those people. But that's what we got out of it, working with these multi-million dollar products and companies. So I guess, and this is at the opening, that's my dear mum, with the local federal member. But I guess the message for me for Dreamworld is, we wanted to be there to negotiate an outcome for our mob. I feel we did that. We also, this is where I first heard the term edutainment. And this man was instrumental in putting together the videos there, and also advising us of his learnings over many years in the live dance industry. This was another way you could go. When you put together a show, so this is the internals there. When you put together a show, a video could be a good way to go. And it's a very impressive video that we worked on, and we're really proud of it. And the other thing they didn't do is they didn't shy away from the atrocities of real history. So when you go into that space, it tells everything. And for the people who want to actually absorb it and learn it, they will learn it all in this space. So we can put our hand in our heart and say, did they tell the truth? Bloody oath they do. Is it confronting? Yes, it is. But can a mum with a stroller and a 6-year-old still wander through with an ice cream and just take it at the top level? Yes, they can. So for us, it was a clever way to do business. And yeah, I think last count before the tragedy, there was 800,000 people went through this section of the park alone. And we could never achieve that as a little museum. And we could never achieve the skills that have been passed on to us. Learnings from this going forward, like the Ardent Leisure Board would tell you right now, they would like to invest more money in that, more training into it, and that's what I say to them as well. And we've been very close with them, they've been really honest with us all the way along. But having a 30% hit to your bottom line with what's happened, we now have to renegotiate the whole business. And plus, the CEO, Deborah Thomas, who I met with 4 days ago. You know, she's out, so we have to start a lot of relationship building again. But I think that's what it comes down to. You've just got to be in it for the long haul. And respectfully, they went to each of these groups to talk about totems and what they mean to them. But they've worked really hard to create something that the community can be proud of. It creates jobs for our youth, not just our youth, but other members as well. And gives our guys a place to train up so that they can really enjoy the opportunities in the tourism industry. Thank you.